wherever you are in this timeless experience. So I've become aware lately that the stuff that I put up online by Nisargadatta Maharaj is pretty heavy stuff if you don't have a background in philosophical thought or the notions of transcendence and mysticism, etc. This is really sort of the high end of yoga practice. I've become aware lately, again, what a tremendous debt I owe to my first and constant teacher, my guru, Ramurti S. Mishra, MD. In his later years, he's known as Sri Ramananda Saraswati, and was the founder of the Yoga Society of New York, and there's an ashram still run that he founded in Monroe, New York, called Ananda Ashram. I met him just as he had finished writing this book, Fundamentals of Yoga. That was in 1959. And at that time, yoga was a pretty far out thing and not common. There wasn't standardized and trendy yoga gear, and many different yoga schools extant to, there was no sort of hot yoga or etc. Now there always have been many streams, of course, but my interest is in the classical yoga and what I would call the direct path. If it weren't for meeting this fellow, this pretty amazing fellow, I wouldn't be sitting here today. At the time, as a young kid, I couldn't see any reason for living. And this changed quite quickly after working with him. And the practices that I do to this day are still the fundamental practices that yield really unusual and life-transforming results. Ramurti Mishra, or Dr. Mishra, he was, at the time I met him, he was a doctor in a military hospital in Rhode Island, I think. And then I studied with him in Montreal, where he was doing his internship in psychiatry at McGill. After that, he did ophthalmology and neurosurgery at Bellevue. And then after that, after getting about 5 postgraduate degrees in medicine, he never practiced medicine. But started this ashram in upstate New York and taught yoga and yoga teachers, and drove most of us crazy teaching us Sanskrit, which he was really big on. So he would have meetings, and after the meeting, if there no questions, okay, Sanskrit. And then we would sort of drop like flies. About a half hour in, half the people would be asleep on the floor. And then other people caught on to it and actually ended up having careers teaching Sanskrit, which is a really interesting and marvelous language from a philosophical point of view, way ahead in terms of what's available in English or in other languages that I don't know any other languages, so I can't comment on that. So Dr. Mishra had some amazing siddhis. Siddhis are like thaumaturgic or magical powers. And these ordinarily eschewed by yogis because of the complications of abuse. And but he opens up in this this yoga manual. He opens up how these powers are acquired, and he used them quite freely, but used them in such an interesting and elegant way, and that nobody else but you would be aware of what was going on that was appropriate to you at the time. So I won't go too far, but one thing I remember is that I became aware that when I had a question, I wouldn't voice the question necessarily, but he would just look at me and answer the question, woven into the discussion. And I just make me sort of say, just a minute now, what's going on here? And then I'd say, well, I'm not really sure about that. And he'd say, well, you may not be really sure whether what I'm saying is so or not. And then he'd go on and talk to everybody. And I don't know if others had this experience or not. Others have confirmed that they've had it. But it was so elegant in that there was no show. And that really, that struck me. And what struck me more was, if he could do this, we must share some medium. And that gave me a tremendous lift and curiosity to know, if this can happen, there must be some way in which we share the same thought field. There must be something that joins us on a level that's more subtle than the body. And that was like really fascinating to me. And through that, I was caught in this practice and inspired to delve deeper into finding out what I am, and getting this ultimate answer is the answer to the real gorilla in the room: why do we die? So yoga addresses this, and I just want to read this, the first little chapter of his book. And this has been reprinted. This is 1987 version, and I see in the front, I just have to notice in front that he'd given me this in 1988. He left the body in 93, I recall. Let me just read this. The first sentence has got the most elegant definition of yoga that I've ever heard. He says, the first chapter, Yoga and its Application. It says, submission of lower desire to higher desire is called yoga. Submission of lower desire to higher desire is called yoga. In yoga, the student leads his mind from untruth to truth, from darkness to light, from ignorance to knowledge, from pain, suffering, diseases, and death to peace, happiness, and eternity, from unreality to reality. Yoga teaches the methods to control the mighty waves of the mind and to subdue them completely to the primordial consciousness, which is operating eternally through every perceptual mechanism. It is working as eternal teacher for the student of yoga. Without understanding this principle, yoga practice is impossible. Yoga does not recognize physics without metaphysics, or metaphysics without physics. Thus, yoga is a missing link between physics and metaphysics. It criticizes both when they try to become separate, and brings them together into one eternal principle, which is called ultimate reality. Many people learn yoga, some to conquer their physical and mental illness and weakness, while others learn it to obtain some occult powers. Philosophers learn yoga to make alive their philosophy, because without the practice of yoga, the teachings of philosophy and Vedanta are like a lifeless body. Religious persons practice methods of yoga to perceive truth in the scriptural statements, because without the practice of yoga, all scriptures are nothing but figurative statements. Hypnotists learn yoga in the form of hypnotism, a distorted form of yoga, to become professional hypnotists. Some learn yoga as a curiosity, while a few learn yoga for the sake of tremendous magical powers. While yoga definitely has all the above-mentioned powers, its real aim is beyond these goals. Once the first writer of Yoga Sutras, Patanjali, was asked by his student, Sir, quote, Sir, you've written a book of medicine which treats mental and physical diseases temporarily. Is there any way to conquer mental and physical illnesses, pains, sufferings, and death permanently? End quote. The great yogi Patanjali replied as follows, and he spoke Sanskrit here, Yoga moksha sarvasam vadanam, etc. That is to say, and he translates, that is to say, yoga and moksha are two great states in which all pains and sufferings are permanently conquered. Moksha, or nirvanam, is the permanent abode of eternal consciousness. Knowledge, existence, blessings, happiness, and peace. Yoga is the infallible instrument to obtain nirvanam. Thus, the main goal of yoga is freedom of the spirit from the fetters of material desires and permanent victory of consciousness over ignorance. With the exception of nirvanam, all other perfections, such as mysticism, occult powers, supernatural powers, etc., are secondary aims, and they are byproducts of yoga. A student of yoga is constantly warned about the use of these powers, because in his demonstration of powers, he may fall from his highest aim, which is complete mastery of consciousness over ignorance and nature. He is allowed to use his, quote, supernatural, unquote, powers of yoga if their use is not contrary to his ultimate goal. This is the main difference between a student of yoga and other mystics. If someone is not interested in perfection, but only to gain some supernatural powers, he can still practice yoga, but he must understand clearly that this is not the true form of yoga. Some religionists try to associate the science of yoga with religions. It is a misapplication of yoga. No doubt, the methods of yoga help all religions equally in their practice of meditation. Yet yoga is beyond religion. It comprises every science. Still, it is beyond all sciences. It has its own methods of investigating mental powers. Other scientific investigations are secondary to yoga. All other scientific investigations help in the analysis of thought, but one should not forget to analyze the mind through the methods of yoga practice, which is the direct way of analysis. Yoga is not the property of any country, as some writers claim. It is the property of nature and consciousness, which belongs to all equally. Yoga is used to cure all physical and mental illness with absolute safety and without any harm. Yoga is simple, easy to learn science. Like all sciences, it is founded on facts, investigated through analysis and synthesis of thoughts. Yoga consists of analysis of both subject and object, while other sciences analyze object only. In a state of meditation, the mind is tremendously brighter, stronger, and is possessed of far greater command of all organs and senses. Yoga is mastery of mind. To achieve this purpose, one has to be alert to every branch of science, because directly or indirectly, they are all byproducts of thoughts. This course serves as the official text of the school where the average student, class or private, begins practice of the subject for the very first lesson. The methods contained herein have been tested and proved. With this course, you have everything in your possession to become a yogi, a master of mind. Study these methods, use them, test them, prove them. He doesn't say to believe anything. Study these methods, use them, test them, prove them. Now, there's a caution here. Caution, in a very short time, as a result of the practice prescribed in this course, you may be able to cure your diseases and weaknesses, mental or physical. Do not attempt to cure anybody of anything. Leave curing to medical practitioners. They are well aware of the powers of yoga. Now you are to learn the principles of yoga and their application to your mind, senses, and body. From a practical point of view, yoga is classified into the following 8 systems. 1. Yama, which is control of the mind and mental waves. 2. Niyama, observation of rules to obtain that aim. 3. Asana, different postures to obtain that state. Pranayama, regular breathing to help control the mind. Pratyahara, complete relaxation of every organ and withdrawal of consciousness. Dharana, fixation of consciousness on different parts of the body. Dhyana, constant suggestions. Samadhi, creation of willpower and power of consciousness. You don't have to remember these. Out of these 8, the last 3 are primary in mental analysis, and 5 are secondary to these 3. A detailed description of all these will be given later on in your practice. At this time, you must learn a few points seriously. These are really nice. 1. Confidence. You must have tremendous confidence in yourself that you can do anything suggested and given to you. 2. Expectation. Whatever is suggested is going to happen. This is well known. 3. Continuous suggestion. When we do these streams, I keep repeating things and talking a lot because the mind is so wily that it needs constantly to be reminded about what it's supposed to be doing. And 5, constant remembrance of eternal consciousness, which is operating in you through your heart and which is manifested in you as your eternal companion and teacher, to teach you and to deliver you from all bondages. It is manifested in you in the form of different divine sounds. Anahat Nadam, a subtle and constant, inexpressible musical vibration in your head, an almost humming sound similar to the pronounced word Om. If it is not manifested in you, do not worry, as it will come in time. If you have it already, use it now in suggested methods. Now, this is what I refer to as, and he refers to later as, the sound current. So let's sit for a few moments. Let the body breathe and the mind feel. Sit naturally with the spine erect. Relax. Relaxing means letting go of all tension. So you let the face fall. Imagine scanning the whole body from top to bottom, letting all the muscles just hang on the bones. When you put down a bag of potatoes, they all fall to the lowest level. No effort is required to live. Through grace, an amazing grace, we are kept alive. Imagine if we had to remember to beat our heart. all is actually done for us. Feel pulsation of the heart. And all more subtle vibrations in the body. Especially the tingling of the electrical body. The body is an electrical and chemical phenomenon expressed through biology. You can feel directly what the new scientists are on about in treating the body electrically. Feel tingling sensation. If you don't feel it everywhere in your body, then just relax that part. Hear the sound current. What he refers to as anahat nadam means music without instruments, or the unstruck sound, also known as the music of the spheres. This is something very special, because it is not a physical phenomenon. The sound is always there. We have it. To hear it, just relax and listen internally, intently. This sound is Om, the connective tissue of the universe. Hear the sound current, usually heard first on the right side of the head. There are many different kinds of sounds. But a humming or buzzing sound is usually heard first. And the sound of a bell is especially charming. Now, as there is internal sound, there is internal light. Though the eyes may be closed, still aware of light. Artists call the color that we see Eigengrau, which just means brain gray. there's more to this internal light. If you focus on this light, on what you see internally, you may see all different shapes. Images may come to light, like in a waking dream state. But the important feature here is not that you see internal light, or that you see that the eyes are closed. It's not what you see, but that you see. What I mean is, when we see something, it requires awareness. And that's a bigger miracle than the world. That's a bigger miracle than what we see. It's like being in a movie theater. There's the screen. And there's a film. And the screen is like the world. The moving images in a movie theater are like thoughts or images or moving in the world. But the real magic is supplied by the light. And the message is, we are that light. Now with the inner eye, reach back and back. What is it that sees? What is this light that I am? What is this light of awareness? Who am I? When I wake up, before I take up this name and form and responsibilities and habits and past and future, what am I before I pick all those up? In Zen they ask, who is it drags this corpse around? The yogis say, you are not the body and mind, the name or form. We have these things, but we exist beyond them. But these are just words unless we experience. And to experience this is truth, we use the practice of yoga. There are many forms. But this is a direct path. And all are good. Now whatever comes to mind, don't judge it. All thoughts are allowed, because now we are not those thoughts, and they are not our thoughts, they're just thoughts that we are claiming that we own. We just watch them go, like the judge in a courtroom. No preference to the prosecution or the defense. Watch the whole thing dispassionately. And apply the rule of law. Rest in that which sees. The most transcendent thought or notion that we can have is the notion, I am, I exist. Watch the meditator. Watch yourself throughout the day. This is a constant, excellent meditation. No matter how horrific your experience, how challenging, being aware that you are aware of it means that it is not your essential nature, but only an experience. Now survey the body. Note that the body is relaxed. No tension in body, no intention in mind, just watching. Body is filled with electricity, with sound, with light. And I am aware of all these. So really, I'm beyond every notion. I'm talking about I am, the essential I am, the universal I am. I cannot be anything of which I am aware. This is my freedom. This is my joy. This is my eternality. This is my timeless experience. This is nowness. It is a thoughtless and mindless state. Whatever arises, just note that it arises and note, I see this. This reminds me that I am. The ever more subtle notions can be dropped, can be relaxed, even thoughts can be relaxed. The feeling I am meditating or I'm a meditator is not essential. It is a temporal experience. I am that which knows that this is happening. I am the perceiver. Even the notion that I am a perceiver is just a notion. I'm cognizant of that. Behind all this, I am. Daily practices to transform your life. It has worked for yogis, and those who have come across it don't call it yoga at all. Some call it self-analysis, transcendence. This mantra is the great mantra for overcoming death. Been used for millennia. Not necessary that you chant it. It is a technique used by yogis to spread joy and peace throughout their whole experience and all beings. Om Triambakam Yajamhe Sugandham Pushtivartanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mitra Mukshiyamamritat Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamhe Sugandham Pushtivartanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mitra Mukshiyamamritat Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamhe Sugandham Pushtivartanam Urvarukamiva Pandanan Metor Mukshiyamamritat Swaha. Om Shanti Om Shanti Om Shanti Om Om Shanti Om Shanti Om Shanti Om. When you feel inclined, open the eyes, move the body, enjoy life.